My wife and I love the house, but you're the realtor. What do you think we should do?
Well, I talked to the seller's agent, and it's a multiple offer situation. I think we may need to go over a list.
So, how would that change the numbers?
Let me get my people on it. So, how did Ben's game go the other night?
It was pretty good. He got 2 hits, but he took a ground ball to the... I just got your text. That was fast.
How does it look?
So if we offer $10,000 over list, it only changes our payment by $68? I think we could do that.
Great. I'll let the agent know and we'll get started on the paperwork.
Perfect.
Good job, hon. Thanks.
Hope it appraises. I've really got to get a better split.
Greetings, everyone. This is Jeremy Davis with PalmAgent. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day today to go through this webinar with us. We're really looking forward. We have some really cool things to show you. That was a video we shot several months ago. It's got over 400,000 views on YouTube and Facebook for all the different title partner brands out there that we've done the video for. We think it's funny. We're just trying to show that the app is really easy, but we're not a proponent of child labor or anything like that. But we've got some cool things in store for you today, and thank you for taking the time to join us. We've switched to from GoToMeeting to Zoom, and a lot of you are using Zoom meetings now. We've used GoToMeeting for 10 years, and Zoom is just amazing. We've never had the ability to show video without it being very choppy. And we got a few notes last week that, some of the screens and words were off a little bit, and that's just the infrastructure of the technology. So we're trying out Zoom this week, and we've been really happy with the results so far. One of the things I wanted to mention, though, is down here in the bottom left, if you're not familiar with it, you can change from your computer audio and then also make a phone call if for some reason your internet's not working well. And if you have audio problems, that's where you can kind of go in and check and make sure your speakers and everything's kind of checked the right way. Most importantly, I wanted to show you, though, is over here the Q&A. We've got staff on hand. We have over 2,000 realtors on the call, and anything you have, questions, comments, feedback, we love it all, and our staff's on hand to address that for you. We've got a lot of people on the call, so be a little bit patient with us. However, I want you to know that's there, and we welcome you anytime you have any questions to fire them away. Our team really does enjoy hearing from you. Also, if you happen to be watching this on your phone, as I go into the program, you can kind of touch on the screen and zoom in a little bit, double click your screen or pinch and zoom. Just play around with those settings so that the phone that I show is a little bit larger, and that should help some of you out. What we're going to go through today, so on part 1 of the webinar, I really spent a lot of time on the buyer's quick estimate and the seller's net sheet. And today we're going to go through a lot of the other really cool, powerful calculators that there's a million different scenarios that pop up that you may need to be helping someone who's renting or buying, or someone who's moved into their house and thinking about refinancing. I just want to show you everything, the collection of everything that's in there for the agents. And if you have any questions, fire them away, and I'll walk through that for you. We'll go through a handful of calculators. We'll make it as far as we can. I also wanted to mention that in a couple weeks, we're going to be doing a special iBuyer webinar. We've been working for the last year to give you guys a really cool calculator that lets you communicate the value of working with a real estate agent versus an iBuyer. And it's not done in a way to mislead buyers and sellers. It's really just the information, facts are facts. Years ago, when Amazon started becoming a larger force and people were checking Amazon, Best Buy decided we're going to scramble people's phones who come into our store and try to check prices. Well, that blew up in Best Buy's face big time. And I feel similarly with the iBuyer. At the end of the day, we have to look at the consumer and help lead the consumer, which is what we've always done, on what's going to be best for them. So if iBuyers, there's 26 major markets they're in, and if they're not in your market, They're coming, they're growing. Zillow doubled their company in a year. And I just want us to be prepared. I think of them almost like Zillow. You know, I didn't welcome Zillow with open arms, but then I realized there's somebody we have to play around with, and we've got to figure out what's the best way to position ourselves. So Dan is I think he's an iBuyer guru. He works with all of them. He's been a realtor for 20 years, very successful agent out of Arizona. And he's going to come on and spend maybe a half an hour with us. And then we're going to show you the calculators that we've worked with a few different experts, including Dan, to build that will be a free update for PalmAgent or your branded version that you get from the title company. So I wanted to go ahead and mention that, and we'll email you more about that later. Okay, let me swipe over to our program and jump into this. Now I'm using PalmAgent. You see that up here at the top. You have your own branded version from your title company. That's how we work, is we work with these amazing title companies all over the country. They provide us all the rates and fees and data, and they also advertise on it and help us bring it to you in your local markets. But because we have a collection of a few thousand agents all over the country, I'm just going to use what I call a generic program that says PalmAgent. And because of that, the costs and fees are going to be a little bit different if you're kind of going along with me as we go through this, and I would encourage you to. But just pay attention. The overall, methodology of what I'm doing will be the same for everyone, but some of the costs and fees, and in Texas they have different credits than they do in California, and so some of that, the nuances will be a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to start with. I'll quickly just recap. Last week, or I guess it was a couple weeks ago, we went through the seller's net sheet where you put in a sales price, you put in a payoff, you hit compute, and it gives you a really quick estimated seller net proceeds. And if we're working with a seller and numbers change, we get and walk in the inside of the listing, it's not exactly what we thought, or even I think this is more professional, showing them our iPad or our computer or phone than several sheets of paper. It's just very clean and organized and neat for presenting. So that's the seller's net sheet. And then I mentioned the hidden features. And so just remember when I say hidden features, because I'm going to show you different ones as we go throughout this training. It means when I turn my phone to the side, so I'm just going to rotate my phone to the side, and it's going to run 5 net sheets at once, because you can't predict sales price. We do our best to estimate, but what it does is it builds a $40,000 window, goes up 20,000 and down 20,000, and computes real estate commissions, title insurance rates. It goes ahead and prices everything at each price point. So it's basically running 5 net sheets at once. So that if I'm sitting with a seller and I say, hey, if we get an offer for 545 over ask, then you'd be looking about 81,000. If you get an offer for 505, you'd still be looking at about almost 45,000. Do you think that's still going to work for you guys? If we get to that point, just a way of taking their temperature. This right here, really, really cool program. And then I showed the buyer's estimate where we put in a sales price of 5.25 and hit compute. And as we're driving around looking at houses, this gives you an estimated payment and estimated bring to close. Those are the 2 numbers most buyers care about. And even though they meet with our wonderful lending partners, every house we look at is a little bit unique and a little different. And, they may find one they love that's 6.25, which was out of their price range. However, they get creative and they say, you know what, this is the house we want. And maybe if we put 20% down, we have a little more in savings we could go into. Maybe we can still, this payment will still work for us. And we can get creative and figure out a way to get into this house, because this is really the house we want. So this was really the buyer's estimate and the seller's net sheet are our bread and butter. But now I'm going to go down here to calculators, and I'm going to show you some really cool, awesome calculators that we built. I'm going to start with rent versus buy, because I think rent versus buy, even if that's all that PalmAgent did, this would be worth it. I haven't seen anything in all of real estate. And this is all I do every day, is try to find what's out there. What could we improve upon that even holds a candle to the story you can help a renter with, and telling them, showing them, educating them, leading them on, does it make sense to continue renting? Because at the end of the day, if it makes sense for them to continue renting, whatever their variables are, it makes sense for them to continue renting. But we need to help walk them through that, because more often than not, they're leaving a lot of money on the table and they're just not aware of the details. So watch how this works. So I'm in calculators, and then I clicked rent versus buy. I'll go back and show you right here. So rent versus buy. And I want to walk us through the story on kind of how this works. And again, this is free for everybody on the call. Just download the app. So I'm going to say they're currently paying $2,500 a month in rent. So that's the only question it's asking. And then what kind of house are they looking at? So whether you've done your research and you've found a few comparable properties that you think maybe they could, be interested in, they're looking for a 3-bedroom in this area or a 4-bedroom. So I'm going to come in and say the house they're looking at, shocker, you see a theme developing. I use this number a lot, is $525,000. So this is all we need from you to tell the story. Now, I will show you, we built some assumptions in. So if you click on, they call this a caret in the development world. I'll click on the caret, and it says we're assuming a 3.65 interest rate. If you wanted to change that to 4 right now, you change it to 4. We're assuming 30 years loan. I mentioned this last week, the property taxes and insurance. You can put a dollar amount in if you have them. So if you know the taxes on this specific property are $4,200, then you can add that in. Or you can, again, select the caret, and we have different rates built in for your area, depending on what county you're showing the property in. So we use a composite, or we add in the total amount. We've estimated on this one that the gross household income is $77,000 to $165,000. Again, you can change any of these. We're assuming for this area 3.5% appreciation, because if you don't talk about appreciation, I'm not saying we're going to predict it's going to appreciate a year or 1% a year, but it's worth walking the consumer through and not promising him 3%, but saying, hey, if it appreciates at this, I want you to know what that looks like. And by the way, rent goes up as well. Rent's doubled over the last 30 years, the average rent across America. So we built in, we've tried to go into each of your markets and build in a home appreciation, a conservative. I wouldn't say this is aggressive for what most of the economists are predicting over the next few years, and a rent appreciation. And we've even, to be fair, put a 0.5 point of home maintenance a year, because usually when your dishwasher breaks, you call your landlord if you're renting, and they'll come fix it for you. But if you're a homeowner, you can't call your parents. There's nobody to call. You've got to fix it. So to be fair in our calculations, we even did that. But you can adjust any of these numbers, but we've built them in under assumptions. So again, all I did was put in $2,500. I put in $525, a down payment of 10%, and I'm going to hit compute. And here's where the fun starts. So the first thing most people want to know is, if I decide to jump in the water and buy a home, where is it going to make sense? Because if I move in 12 months, I'm going to come out behind. But if you know you're going to be in it for at least 2 years and 3 months, that's the first thing we calculate for you, is your break even. Because most renters who are going to make that decision and cross over the line, that's one of the first things they want to know is, when do I break even? So what we've done is we've taken the rent cost of $2,500 a month, $18,000 a year, and divide that up. 36, 24, $30,000 a year. And I'm a math guy. And we've taken that out for 2 years and 3 months, and that's $68,239. We've taken the buy cost of owning this house, the mortgage payment, and we've said this is going to cost you about $66,283, including that 0.5 point of home maintenance. Now, if you hit the learn more, it will break all of those costs down for you. On this scenario, it will show you the difference in how we're running these calculations of what total buy cost actually is. Okay? So that's where you see the math, but this is usually what they want to know. As long as you think you're going to live in it for at least 2 years and 3 months, then it makes sense. Now you have this cool slider down here. And if you'll slide the bar across and say, we're planning on being here at least 5 years until our kids get out of school. Well, if that's the case, then this should be profitable for you, about $93,000. So in 5 years, you'll have an extra $93,000 in your pocket assuming, 3% appreciation, you're making your mortgage payments on time, all those kind of things. So I want to make sure they have the full story, but we can't leave them light on making such a significant decision that's going to really benefit them. So that's how the math works. Now, the next thing I want to do, see this little bar across the top? This bar is the secret sauce. I'm going to now just kind of slide my screen from left to right. And the first thing it's going to talk about is a tax-adjusted payment. So what we're doing in tax-adjusted payment is we're saying there's tax incentives for owning a home. Now we put in there the income, average income of $67,000 to $165,000, I think we had. You can adjust that if you know the specific buyer's income, but that gives you an estimate of tax deductions, because over a year, you're going to have tax savings of a little over $3,600 for being a homeowner. And in reality, that payment every month that you're living in, you want to factor that savings at the end of the year into your payment so you kind of know what the net spend is for the 12 months. So that's what we've done. We call it the tax adjusted payment. So even though they're paying $2,500 a month, because that rent that's $2,500 a month is $2,500 a month. There's no way around it. And when the landlord wants to increase it, he does. But this actually has tax savings associated with it. And so the net amount is really about $300 less a year to own this home versus renting the current house you're in. So we thought that was worth explaining. And then again, we have a little learn more option that will break down and show you your annual tax savings and how we've backed it out of the payment. So anytime you see a learn more, if you have a question, that's what you do. So here's where I was, the break even. I moved it to 5 years to show it's going to be $93,172. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe over and we're going to do an equity calculation. So after 5 years, even though my savings was $93,000, now when I go to equity, it says your down payment that you put down of 10% plus the appreciation of 3.5% a year for 5 years, plus the principal you've paid. So the interest is lost, obviously, but the principal you've been paying for 5 years is also a part of your equity. So all of those things considered, after 5 years, you should have about $200,000 in equity. And if you're sitting with a young couple who's buying their first home, or even someone you know who's renting and been renting too long, everybody knows the basic arguments, but when you can walk them through factually and visually this story, just watch the difference. It really is a tool that tomorrow can help me show someone the benefits of home ownership better than anything else I've seen in the industry. I really haven't. And then the last part, which is really, really, really awesome. So equity after 5 years should be about $200,000. Now the last part means what happens when we sell. So I'm going to swipe over, and because we've worked with your title company, we have your title rates and real estate commissions and fees. After 5 years, if you were to sell, you should be putting in your pocket about $155,219. We've run a full net sheet for you with the sales price, balance, the prorated tax credit because the time of year of closing for this property, it was the first day after they'd paid taxes, the closing costs, and the net at close should be about $155,218. That right there, guys, is one of the coolest things I've seen in real estate. And the buyer's net sheet and the seller's estimate, those are some of the best programs. They're amazing. They're the really meat of this. But man, I don't want to leave off rent versus buy, because when you run yourself into that scenario, just watch the difference. Watch the face of the buyer when they see the information, these hot points that they're looking at. And running the full net sheet was just the kicker. What if we want to sell after 10 years? I'm going to pull the slider, and it's going to now run all of the cost, all of the appreciation, everything over a 10-year span, and show you'd be looking at about $321,000. It almost makes me want to just stop the webinar here, because the rent versus buy calculator, really, really cool. And if you just want to stop and show them their break even, that's really cool. The break even was 2 years, a little over 2 years. That was a cool one to show. But when you really go in and show them the payment, the tax adjusted payment, the equity, what to expect after 5, 10, 15 years. You have a young child and you want to wait till they get out of high school, and this is kind of our time horizon right now, then this is what we're looking at in savings. And then run over and do a net sheet for them and show them if they sell their house and list it with you, this is where we can be at the end of this. I think it's really, really, really cool. So that is the rent versus buy calculator. I'm going to go back, and I know I touched on this one last time. I'm going to save the iBuyer comparison for our call we do with Dan. I really hope if you're interested or have heard, that calculation started because I reached out to my agent and I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about an iBuyer. Here's what they're offering. What do you think? And I needed a more compelling story of numbers and facts. It's just the way I put information together. And so we worked really hard to give you a good scenario to be able to answer your buyers or sellers questions when they have iBuyer, when they run across these iBuyers that are spending millions of dollars a month marketing on radio and TV and Facebook. So I do want to touch on monthly affordability. I know we did that last time, but monthly affordability is the program where if buyers today talk to you about payment, if a buyer's ever said, hey, I met with a lender, he pre-qualified me for $300,000 or $800,000, I'd really like to keep my payment no more than, $3,000 a month. I want to buy a house, but I want to spend about $3,000 a month. Or I'm renting and I'm spending $2,000. I can buy a house, but I can't afford more than $3,000. How much house can I afford? This is the most complex algorithm we have of taking a total principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment of $3,000 and then hitting compute and building that up into a house 30 years later based on taxes, insurance, and PMI to say you should be looking at about a $512,000 house with interest rates where they are today, to get you your payment at $3,000 a month. And if I want to change the interest rate and say, well, what if I get it at 4% interest? Then you're still looking at almost $500,000, $497,712. This is just a really cool one when the questions come up, and especially all the stuff we've been through lately in our country. When we look at this from a buyer's perspective and say, hey, listen, I don't want you to get into more house than you're comfortable spending. So what do you want to spend a month? And this will give us a range of what they can shop for depending on their down payment. If they can put more down, and I want to go to 20% down, then we can look upwards of $582,000. So just a really cool, simple, fast calculator that lets you start with a payment in reverse. Buyers today don't typically live in house prices. They live in this house payment. And this is a cool, quick calculator that lets you answer those questions. Now, I mentioned hidden features earlier. I'm going to turn this phone sideways and turn it back, and I want to show you what it does. This goes up in half-point increments, 5.5, 4, 4.5, and shows you that same payment of $3,000 with 10% down, $3,000 a month. This is how much less house it buys you as interest rates go up. So if you have a buyer who's kicking tires and having trouble pulling the trigger, this is a really, really cool educational piece that you can just show them the power of interest rate. A point can mean $50,000 in buying power. Your payment's staying the same. That's a different neighborhood a lot of times. Go show them a $450,000 house and a $500,000 house. There's a difference. So this is another really cool, again, I'm going to just turn my phone sideways, and it will build up month by month and show you at different interest rates how it affects your buying power, total buying power, based on a desired payment. So I wanted to make sure you knew that was there. And then the last piece I want to show you, and this is a newer update, is what if, I'm going to do the same calculator, what if they know how much they also want to put down? So they say, I want to bring $3,000 to closing, and I'd like to put down total closing costs. So I'm going to click on bring to close. I've saved up $50,000, and this is what I want to to spend on a down payment on a house. Now it will take that into consideration and say, a loan amount of $450,000, you can buy about a $486,000 house, and that will cover your 7.5% down payment, which is the $36,000 plus your closing costs for buying the home of $13,000. So this lets you go in and, based on a payment and a total amount of savings, tell you about what price range you should be shopping for. And again, I said this last time, I love lenders. Lenders are our friends. We're not trying to train any agents to close loans and that kind of stuff. Like, lenders are the experts. But while we're house shopping, we know buyers and sellers have numbers questions. They just do. We do when we're looking at cars or we're looking in different industries. And so we just wanted to give you simple solutions from your phone where you can get a really good idea of an estimated payment, closing costs, price range they should be shopping in depending on what they want to spend. And then once they find their house they want, let's get them back to the lender and let them work the best loan possible for them. So that's really the sweet spot for PalmAgent. Okay, I'm going to go back to calculators, and I did monthly affordability. I did rent versus buy, and now I want to click on sell to net. Sell to net is one of our favorites because it's targeted, I like to say, around unrealistic sellers. And any agents I've met with over the last 20 years who've been in the business more than 2 months have worked with an unrealistic seller. And I've even been an unrealistic seller personally. And usually when an unrealistic seller will tell us, we need to clear $50,000. And the speed of this is what's crucial, guys. And that's what I want to show you. So if they tell you their net goal is $50,000, now this is the normal net sheet app. It's just backwards. So it lets them start with $50,000. And so I'm going to go in and say, how much do they owe? And we're going to say they owe $575 and 6% broker fee. Remember last time also, I click on the gear and it shows if you need to change the splits, then that's where you go in and do it. Remember, the gears are your friends. So anytime you see a gear, just touch on it and you can make any adjustments that you need to. So $50,000 net goal, $575 is what they still owe. And I'm going to hit compute. And it's going to tell me we need to list it for $672 so that you can clear $50,000 at closing. The reason is there's two big reasons. First, this calculation is challenging. I've sat with your escrow officers at your title companies, and they just have to go back and forth because I've got to decide how much to sell it for and what would a 6% commission be on that, or what would a title insurance rate, because a lot of times that's based on the price. So it just goes back and forth and checks. And it gets you close to the $50,000. The reason this is so important is usually the reason I say unrealistic is a seller that wants to make $50,000 has usually done their homework, and they've decided if you can squeeze your commissions out of the difference. So if I go back up here and they go, well, you got to work on this number because you told us you thought $50,000 wouldn't be a problem. Or you said you think, let me work on it, but what I heard was you were going to do it. That's why we decided to list with you. And when you get the reality of 672 and you show them comps that say 645, it's really important that quickly we need to close that gap. We need to be able to show them that $50,000 we don't think is going to be realistic based on what they owe and what we think the house is worth right now. So this 672, and by the way, the seller hasn't thought a second about this number. They've just been looking at this $50,000 number. That's all because they figured their next down payment on their next house, this is what they can clear, then they can move, and that whole story. But when they see this number next to comps that we show them, we don't have to really say too much. We can just show them the information and say, you know what, I don't know if this is going to fly at this number. Maybe we need to wait a year if this is really what you need to clear, or we have to get more realistic on this number, the $50,000. And the reason I say the time and speed that we do that in is so crucial is because the next day they've already found the other house in the new city that they're moving to, and they've got their ship ready to sail. And you promised me this, and you said, well, you've got to work on, and how are we going to doing this immediately and quickly, even over the phone, if they called me, I real quickly know by my tone, this isn't going to fly and I can have a more real conversation with them. So Sell to Net is another free calculator. We built it in for you, and just think of it as a net sheet in reverse. It's sell to net a certain amount. So that's a really cool one. Okay, refi. Let me click on refi. Okay. Now this is going to be more. We have tens of thousands of lender clients, so this is going to be more for lenders. However, sometimes personally, or you might want to look at your own home, or you might have a friend that you're really close with who's saying, I know you're in real estate, we're thinking about refining, a good lender. And just sitting there at the 19th hole at a golf course, I can pull out my phone and start the process of trying to help them, decide if this is something they want to do and put them in touch with my lender. So refi is pretty simple. It just says, how much are you going to refi? And I say, I want to refi 500,000. Now, do you remember this? This is in Sell to Net. This is in the seller's net sheet. But I also went in and we have a gear so that if they don't know how much they're going to refi, I can click on this gear right here. And it says, do you remember how much you bought your house for? So most people don't know exactly what they owe on their home, but they at least have to know what they bought it for, or we just can't help them. So I'm going to say, I remember I bought it for 6.25. I put 10% down, or let's say I put 20% down. I remember that I put 20% down. And I took out a 30-year loan. I got it at, let's say, 4.5%. And we moved into our house. It says the loan start date, the summer of 2015. Okay. Normally, sitting at the 19th hole, a seller, a buyer, we can personally do this on our own home. Sometimes it takes us a few minutes to think about dates and has it really been 5 years? But assuming this, and again, I mentioned on our first webinar, you could give me all day and a pen and paper and calculator, and I wouldn't even know where to start. If you came back the next day, I wouldn't be an inch closer. But we can hit compute. And again, a lot of times this is just about us helping problem solve and build value in our buyers and sellers' eyes, where they would never dream of working with another agent over us. By saying, assuming this, then you should know about this. Again, if you made your payments on time and it really was 5 years ago when you moved in, you should owe about $458, $244. So that's going to be how much I'm actually refinancing. Okay. And then I go in and say, and I'm going to refinance it at 4% interest for 30 years. And sometimes some lenders will have another, say, $1,500 in cost for doing a refi. And, again, this is more for lenders, but we wanted to include it on your program just so that personally, or if a scenario comes up that you want to get the ball rolling, that you can at least start solving some of this for your homeowners. And I'm going to roll the cost into the loan. Okay, the closing cost, or I'll just leave it unchecked. So basically all you do is put in how much do they owe and what rate do you think they can get it at. And assuming that, it does a quick refi and shows them what their monthly payment would be. So they know I'm paying $2,700 a month now, and you could probably get your payment down to about $2,100 a month. Now, the cool part of the Refi Calculator, and again, this has been a crazy time in our country. And normally our amazing title reps all over the country are out helping answer your questions and doing trainings, but we're partnering with them during this time to walk you through some of these calculators, to go a little deeper, just to make sure you guys really know the digital solutions they've created for you, and if these questions come up, how to answer them. But here under compare, if you want to put in their original loan again, and we'll say it was 5.25, we'll say 5% interest over 30 years. And I think I said they moved in 5 years ago. Okay. So what this will do is it will run a cost comparison to their current loan, $2,800, and the refi amount. Again, even if you just use this for yourself, if you're thinking about refinancing, let's just start there. I don't want you to think we're trying to make everybody lenders or anything. And this is more of a lender program. However, I can drop my payment by $700 a month. I am adding 5 more years to my loan because I've got 25 years left. I've been in it 5 years, and now I'm adding another. But as long as I live in it at least a year and 1 month is my break even, then this is going to make sense for me to do this. And this is where we can say, hey, you're going to lower your payment. It is a significant savings. Let me get you to my lender and have him kind of take it from here. I'm just giving you some kind of preliminary basic information. And then you have this little slider, if you want to slide it over and say, and in 10 years, it looks like you would have saved about $68,000 for refinancing your house. So again, this is a really cool, basic, easy calculator. We've also, remember this toolbar up at the top, if you slide the screen over, we'll give you an amortization schedule that kind of estimates the savings year by year by year. So year 10, year 11, year 12, and so on and so on. So the first year, the first month, it's going to cost you something to do it, but pretty soon, as long as you live in it over a year, it's going to make sense for you. So this is the Refi Calculator, just another one I wanted to touch on. Extra payment, really cool. So I'm going to go through 2 more here for us today, just because of time. So extra payment, we did a call with our title sales execs across the country earlier this morning. And this is one that really gets underappreciated, and everyone wants to know this about their own home. So I would encourage you to put in your own scenario of watch this. It's if I accelerate my loan, how much will it save me? And again, if I'm popping by my clients' homes that I've sold a house to, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I'm thinking about what do I email them? What value do I bring them? What do I want to say? What would they appreciate? What information could I bring them that's helpful? Watch this. I can put in a $525,000 house. I can put in, everyone knows paying a little extra every month saves you a lot of interest. 91% of Americans statistically still don't spend more than 1 penny more on their home every month. They just pay their payment. And why would that be if everyone knows it's a good principle? Like everyone's heard it, everyone knows it. It's because they don't know the specifics on their house. And when you look at the specifics, just $200 a month, $50 a week on this loan, when I hit done and compute, it shows you over the life of the loan, you're going to save over 4 years off your mortgage and almost $50,000 in savings of interest savings by spending an extra $200 a month. Just helping them with the compound interest. And again, this is a cool calculator, but when you do it with your own home, it takes on a new life of its own. And you have the little slider here in the middle. So if I want to go down and say, what would 150 do? You're still going to save, what would $100 a month do? It's still going to save you almost $30,000, $26,624. So this is a really, really powerful, cool added value that everyone always enjoys seeing this. You have the little share sheet here if you wanted to send it to them. Send a full report, and it will give them a breakdown of additional $100 a month versus whichever savings I did versus a biweekly payment. That's the other thing. And it brands it with my branding and my logo and looks super nice. So just pulling these off and texting it, send it through Facebook, email it to your client, just say, hey, I have this really cool calculator, ran some numbers for you. And I didn't know if you guys were paying extra, but I just wanted to show you the compounding effect. Everyone finds this interesting when it's their own specific numbers. And how this little slider works up here at the top, just so you know, if I want to go in here and put $500 a month, I'm really saving a lot of money and can be aggressive and use this much, then we adjust the slider. It's dynamic based on how much you chose. And we always give you the range of, you want to go to 400 or you want to go to 600. You're shaving off almost 10 years off your loan by budgeting out $600 a month and saving over $109,000 in interest. if you could, put this together. But at least, something around the $100 to $200 range is always, there's always room in our budget that we could cut off. And what we've noticed is when the agents are sharing this, when you're sharing this with your buyers or sellers, your clients, they start doing this. They start doing the extra $200 a month. And it's real value we've brought them because they're thinking of us every time they go into the Bank of America and see the account setting out the auto payment. We're going to adjust it, and it's a positive win all the way around. So this is a little free calculator we have on here called Extra Payment, hidden down here. I just wanted to make sure you knew where it was. And the last one I want to show you is multiple offers. Multiple offers is the easiest way in the industry to package several offers to present them to a seller. So I just want to walk everyone through it while we're here together. I'm going to go in and start with the seller's name. So I'll put Jeremy Davis is selling. I'll put 123 Main Street. And I'll put Dallas, Texas is where I'm from. And I will say he owes $525,000 on his loan balance. That'll come into play later when we're figuring out the net sheet. But remember, if you can't figure that out, we can go in and use the gear and plug that in for you if you don't know what that is. And we'll say it's at 4.65 rate. Actually, I'll say the rate was 4.5. Okay. Broker fee and then property taxes. So that's all we have to fill out. And then we hit next and it says, okay, what's the first offer? And I want you to notice the speed at which we can go through this and then the presentation piece it gives you. So the first offer was $625,000. It was, I missed the 5, $625,000. I'm going to go up here where it says conventional and I'm going to switch it to cash. It was an all cash offer. And I'm going to say they were giving $7,000 in earnest money. Okay. Cause that can become important based on how serious they are, what they're willing to risk. But a contingency that their home autocorrect's a joke, must sell first. I hate spelling on webinars. Okay, so start to finish, that took me maybe 15 seconds. So I'm gonna hit add offer, okay? And then it says, okay, we've added this offer. Now what's the next offer? And I'll say this one's offering $635. So a little bit more money. However, his closing date is going to be, 90 days out, July. Okay. April to May, May to June, June to July, 90 days out. But he's willing to pay a $500 home warranty that he'll pay himself. And his earnest money is $2,500. Okay. So I'm really just taking these offers and inputting them into PalmAgent and I hit add offer. And then the last offer I'm going to add one more. You can add up to 12. The next offer I'm going to add, I'm going to say they're offering $638,500. They're putting $10,000 in earnest money. They're going to close 30 days from today. And let's say there's no contingencies. Okay, just nice clean offer. And their buying broker is going to take a 2% commission because that could change the numbers as well for our sellers. So now I'm going to hit add offer. And now I've got 3 offers here. So now I'm going to go into this, what they call a share sheet. This kind of is like the next screen, the little arrow on it. And I'm going to see the full report. So now I have a side-by-side comparison of all 3 offers. This one's going to net you about $57,000, $64,000. It's running net sheets, title insurance rates, real estate commissions, and pricing everything for each price point. It shows me this one's going to pay a home warranty. So this is kind of the pertinent information that I would want to see. This one had a contingency that their home must sell first. It's got my branding and picture and company logo and everything all wrapped into it. This is the best thing I've seen again in the industry for packaging these offers and presenting them to a seller. And if I go back, I want to show you one more thing. If you hit the edit button and you wanted to, let's say, delete this offer because you want to redo it, or you put something in incorrectly or whatever, you can erase it here. You can also say, I think this offer is the strongest offer. So I want to make sure the seller, when they're looking at everything, this is the one, they have to decide what's best for them. Sometimes moving faster, taking cash, timing, the seller's going to decide all that stuff. And I'm going to take this little screen right here and pull it. And because I think it's the best, I want to pull it to the top and reorder it, especially if you have 5, 6, 7 offers you're putting together. That becomes important. And when I hit done, and now I go in to share it, it puts them in the correct order. It adds just the 2. And now I can email it, print it out, text it over to a seller, and let them kind of look at what's coming in and help them choose what offer is going to be best for them. So that's a really cool hidden gem. Multiple offers on the calculator button, and I just wanted to make sure everybody had seen it. So monthly affordability, rent versus buy, which is dynamite. Just play around on it a little bit. Sell to net, a net sheet in reverse, refi, extra payment, adding a little extra, a great follow-up right now. Connecting with your clients and bringing them value. Just make sure you're working the numbers for them, because when it's a generic story, that's why we all know it's a good idea, but nobody does anything. When you see your specific numbers on extra payment, it makes a huge difference. And then I did multiple offers. I want to also jump through premium. That's the section I told everybody is the biggest bargain in real estate. And it's only because of our great title partners that we're able to offer this app for completely free, and also have this for only $1 a month. We lose money on this, by the way. But we want you to take it because we know it's valuable because of the data we have to buy for the geo reports, and the marketing costs of us hiring designers to build out all these infographics. But it gives you a great array of posts on social media. If you want to go basic and just show somebody, downsizing has its advantages. A smaller house means bigger vacations, showing them a net sheet example, but all kinds of different ways to go in. Misconceptions regarding value. Maintenance costs are recouped in a sales price. You get more for your property if you pad the price, and then showing an example of a net sheet. So lots of different creative ways, especially right now, for you to brand yourself on social media and get likes and leads and comments and interactions with your database. Does your home meet your needs? And remember, this is how this works. You click on continue. It pulls you into PalmAgent. It says, okay, your price. The different real estate companies will create some of these, and they're what I call generic and static. And again, it goes back to like extra payment. When the numbers are specific, it makes all the difference in the world. And so if I want to say my typical market is $625,000, and we'll say they owe $525,000 for this example, then I'm going to give Facebook, a net sheet based on something similar to what they're used to seeing. So if I'm in California, I wouldn't do this price. I'd do $1 million maybe. And if I'm in Texas, I might do $150,000 or $250,000. So depending on your geographical area and your demographic on social media, who are you trying to get their attention? And this lets you build custom dynamic infographics in seconds, and lay them out and brand them with all of your information. So it's kind of like having your own marketing person working for you. So we have dozens and dozens of these ready for you to throw up on social media. It's really cool, and I hope you like them. The other thing we have in this section are the lenses, and you've probably seen some of these. Realtor, All My Peeps, basically just gives you creative ways of dressing up your listings. Work with an expert, and you can put a selfie in here or import one of your pictures, and they get more feedback and likes when we put a little bit of colors and filters and lenses on them. And that's what we're trying to do in helping you with this. And the part I wanted to focus on in here that I didn't mention last time are what we call the lead gen calculators. So these let you actually take a calculator to Facebook and say, hey, do you want to use some of these calculations? We're going to let you put them on Facebook and pull up the actual calculators and play around with the numbers yourself. So 1 + 1 = 2 no matter who does it. But this lets them, because if you Google refinance calculator, you'll be very underimpressed with what you find. So we said we have the best calculators in real estate with over 400,000 users. Let's take some of this local data and make it available for your clients. So it lets you actually go in and post our calculators on social media to let your buyers and sellers and prospects and customers play around with the different ones. So that's what this area is for, like monthly payment, monthly affordability, how much equity do you have, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to make sure you knew that was there. Guys, the two things we asked for is all of this is free. You know, the premium section, we have to charge something, so it's a whole $1 a month. But if you got value out of this, we want you to encourage telling your friends. You know, there's other agents that have no idea this calculator exists. And when we had 5,000 agents and we were saying this, that's how we've grown to over 400,000. So we continue to ask you to share this with other agents in your office, invite them to the webinars we're going to be doing this week. And most importantly, thank your title company, because they are 100,000% the ones that make this possible. And they saw value in this, in digital net sheets, digital solutions, and making sure you guys were equipped to be the real estate experts anytime you're dealing with your customers. So thank you so much. Jared, if you're there, I'd love to pull you on for just a minute and
Sure.
go through the buy. So see, there's a ton of questions, but I'd love to pull you on just to talk about some of the more popular ones, if we have a minute to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. We've had some great questions so far, and you know, it's always really cool to see the excitement and positive feedback that you guys have when we show the app. It's just crazy, you know, going through these questions and of course all the feedback and everything. You know, we appreciate all of your comments and questions, and you know, we'll be staying here on the call for a little bit, so please feel free to keep those questions coming. We had several of you ask about the calculators tab and you know, what programs are included in premium and that type of thing. You know, just to clarify with everyone, outside of that premium tab that Jeremy touched on, you know, shortly there at the end, all the programs shown today are in the free version of your app. So you'll find all these really cool calculators under that calculators tab. And like Jeremy said, these are provided, you know, by your local title company. So if you like those, feel free to, you know, thank your local title salesperson. But we've also had a lot of calculation questions, you know, number related questions. You know, just keep in mind that in all likelihood, Jeremy's using an app from a different area. So the numbers are going to look completely different depending on which state you're in, which county. You know, so however, with that said, if you need further assistance, you know, with some of the calculations and you have more questions, you know, feel free to reach out to your title sales rep. You know, they've been trained on this and they should be able to point you in the right direction. But if you're having some sort of technical difficulty and need further help, you know, just type in your questions here in the chat and, you know, we'll be happy to, you know, answer those, or, you know, email support@palmagent.com and, you know, we'll be happy to get you taken care of. Also, a few of you have asked this. If you've missed a screen or two during the webinar while trying to follow along, a couple of things to note here. We'll be sending out a video replay of this webinar. But also, if you go to YouTube and just type in PalmAgent tutorials, you'll stumble upon our YouTube page, which has a lot of really great videos on all this stuff that will give you the ability to, you know, play and pause. And really kind of go at your own pace. So if you missed anything today, don't worry. We'll have a video replay of this and also, you know, check out our YouTube page. If we didn't cover something you were looking for on this webinar, just know that, you know, like Jeremy mentioned, we'll be holding more webinars here over the coming weeks where we'll go deeper into other features and we'll have guest speakers and all that. So keep an eye out for email invites, notifications, all that correspondence from us on all this stuff. And just a reminder, we'll be staying on here answering questions for a bit, but I think that covers the most popular ones there, Jeremy.
Wonderful. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Be looking for our emails for our upcoming webinars. We're really happy you're getting value out of this. And everyone have a wonderful and safe week, and hopefully we'll be back here to normal in short time. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
say, oh my God, I see the way you shine. Take your hand, my dear, and place them both in mine. You know you stopped me dead while I was passing by. And now I beg to see you dance just one more time. Ooh, I see you every time. And oh my, I like your style. You make me wanna cry. And now I beg to see you dance just one more time. So they say, dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh. I never seen anybody do the things you do before. They say, move for me, move for me, move for me, eh. And when you're done, I'll make you do it all again. I said, oh my God, I see you walking by. Take my hands, my dear, and look me in my eyes. Just like a monkey, I've been dancing my whole life. But you just beg to see me dance just one more time. Ooh, I see you every time. And oh my, I like your style. You make me wanna cry. And now I beg to see you dance just one more time. So they say, dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh. I never seen anybody do the things you do before.